I am joined by Anne Laure Jackson after a little bit of a respite last week due to issues. Hello, Anne.
Hello, it's lovely to be here. Good to see you.
Issues being a simple word for emergency surgery for Stephen, but we're here to talk about sensory health. And you suggested birthdays.
Only because it's such an amazing week this week and it's really positive. I think we should talk about hospitals and how to cope with some of the stuff that happens, which is hard and shocking and difficult. But it's a birthday week and can we just enjoy? It's kind of like that's where I was coming from thinking, oh, they are such good times, but they also can be a real nightmare for some people. And it's just like,
Yeah.
no, can we just help people in the positives? Makes the positives better because enough stuff happens with life that is hard. And yes, we want to help that and support that. But sometimes we need those feasts, we need those occasions, we need those things to be positive, to really lift our spirits for occasions that should be positive and pleasurable and that sometimes aren't.
Because if we don't make a big point of celebrating the wins, might be one way of looking at it, or smelling the roses is another one of those good parts of childhood. If we don't really embrace celebrating that, then all the hard stuff over here just grinds us down and down and down. And we think, oh, well, let's not celebrate because someone might get upset. Mothering Sunday, we're not going to celebrate Mothering Sunday because some mums have lost a child. Yes, but let's celebrate mums because it's a good thing to celebrate. And if we reduce all the celebration, we're not left with anything. So I think it's a brilliant idea to talk about birthdays because it's exciting,
It is exciting.
but
And
not for all.
it's like, I tell you, but for pure 247 to get to 1 year, it's like, oh, hallelujah. There has been an awful lot, as people will in time. I don't know how much you people know about what's coming out in the future from your household. But it has just been a year, a quite remarkable year
Yeah.
of perseverance and breakthroughs and prayers and trials and testings and the whole works. And we need to celebrate.
Yep. Right, birthdays. So let's go there. I mean, birthdays. We could be talking about Christmas celebrations. We could talk about wedding. The whole thing is just about a celebration, isn't it? It's about doing stuff that isn't what you would normally do. Which, if you struggle with sensory issues, it's probably worth trying to work out how to do, but might be the one thing that you don't want to do, or you don't want your children to have to experience because, well, they've got a norm, they've got a routine, and if we break that routine, what's it going to be like? But as we've said before, sometimes breaking the routine is a good thing.
Mm. And what I love more about birthdays than any other occasion is that it is about that person. If it's your own birthday, that's what I'd love to concentrate on. If there are other people's birthdays, we have to consider it in the same way that we need
Hmm.
to adapt to other people. When it's Christmas, we need to adapt to other people because it's other people's weddings. We need to adapt to other people to learn how to honor best live in our best sensory health where it's going to be quite challenging in those other occasions. However, if it is somebody's own birthday, that is when we can make it so unique, so special, so less anxiety provoking than it needs to be. We don't need the meltdowns. We don't need any hitting, kicking, fighting. We don't need any sleepless nights. We really don't need any of that if we can think ahead and make something that really is a good fit for their sensory thumbprint and what they would like to get out of a birthday.
I was thinking about one of the small things that we do as a station, which we've learned to do over the last year, is when we're talking about walking along the pavement, just as an example. Pavement is a very much English word. It's a British word. If you're in the UK, you know what a pavement is. If you're in the US, then you don't have pavements, you have sidewalks. So it's one of the really simple consequences of us thinking about other people through this year of we were walking along the pavement or a sidewalk if you're in America. And it's that simple to include people rather than exclude them from that's just one word that just came to me as you were talking. And it's a way of celebrating the differences rather than, well, tough, I'm British, it's a pavement, get over yourself, which isn't really going to help anybody. And it's not going to include them in the conversation and the celebration.
Mhm.
Do you know what I
You
mean?
just alienate people just straight off the bat. It's like, yeah,
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 which we don't want to do.
no.
So what would be your I suppose let's do this two ways. What would be the three things to watch out for, and then we can do three things that are really worth celebrating. We'll start with the difficult and we'll finish on the good. What would be your top three? Okay, watch out for these things at a birthday.
Yeah. Um, throw out the norm. Just completely start with a blank slate get a blank piece of paper, 2, 3, 4 weeks beforehand, if you can, however long you normally take to prepare. And just chuck out all the norms, everything, and then one by one, choose which ones you want to bring back in again. So you sit down with your individual and you work out as far as what kind of streamers and the party poppers, how much extra visual clutter do they want? Is there just one room that they want decorated? Do they just want their bedroom to look a bit special? Or do they want the whole house completely, absolutely covered with stuff? And then also, we just need to watch if there are other family members that don't want all of that. But it is about their special day. So this is where we want to meet their needs as best possible. We need to be sensitive to others, but we will put more of the pressure on other people to adapt to this one person because it is their special day. So it's that honoring of them on that day, and that other people need to bend, not that person on that day, if at all possible. So start with a blank sheet. What kind of activity do you want? Do you just want 1 hour? Do you want a 1 hour birthday party where you just see one person and you have a short time and you do something small, and that would just be so sweet for that person? It's just an acknowledgement of who they are, but it's so low key. Maybe it's going for a walk with a friend, or going out for a picnic. And for others, they will want the full on everything that you can possibly get. Chock-a-block from morning to night, physically, laser tags or zip wiring or whatever, that they'll want the full work. So it's trying to find what is going to serve them well, what will really suit them from a sensory perspective, so they don't get overloaded, so that the following day they're absolutely shattered and are just really horrible, and actually you just wish that they'd grow up even more. It's just like, we don't want to do that again. It's like we want the holiday to be such, or the birthday to be so good, that you want to do the same thing the next time, and that you can look back with beautiful memories over it. But it really is, start with a clean slate, work out the food, the activities, how long you want it to be, the number of people that you want to be there, the music that you want on, the whole sensory environment of sight, sound, smells, movements, and then you add in the social and any other expectations on top of that. So
I was thinking about the fact that we have party poppers. The little tube thing, got a string, you pull the string and it pops out and you make a little noise and the streamer comes flying out. I really like these. In fact, we all do in the family. On a radio station, it's not visually that helpful because no one can see it, but I wanted to pop them on air because it excites me and it excited us. But we put a little caveat out saying, by the way, we're about to burst some poppers on air, because I thought, well, I don't know how that's going to translate through the microphone into a radio, into someone's smart speaker or their computer or their tablet, whatever. So I thought, that could be really, really bad. I don't think I'm going to break anything, but is it going to sound really terrible? I'm pretty sure that it's going to peak on the microphone, so it's going to sound a bit weird because the system's going to say that's too loud. But you know what? Let's have some fun anyway. And if it doesn't work, well, we're still having fun. So we put out a warning first. Joe did it, and I actually got 2 poppers at one point, so it was even bigger noise. And we just had fun with it, because ultimately you either try and stop everything so that no one's upset and you're bored, which is sort of a bit boring, or you think, well, this is exciting, so this is what we're going to do. If you want to move away from this, we're doing this anyway, which I wouldn't normally do, but it's a special day, so why not?
Yeah. Do you know actually how it sounded? Did it go out? Did it go okay?
I don't know, because no one's told me it.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
either really, really bad, or it's like nondescript. I don't know.
Yeah, because some of yeah, it just depends. Sound is a really bizarre one, because there are party poppers are one of the worst actually for most of the folk that I work with. That sound, even if you give a warning, it is much better if you can give a warning. But even when you don't, hands are in the ears or they're out the door, and then they go out, and then we say okay, and then we let them know the party poppers are finished, and then they can come back in again. But yeah, that startle and the anticipation, because they know that it's coming. And anticipation can be a really good thing, but also a really bad thing, because you get heightened, you get more nervous, ready for it. The actual sound itself, may or may not be that bad, but it's the anticipation, thinking, oh, it's coming. And there's that your body goes into preparation, which again, for some is really positive and for others isn't. And that's going back to birthdays. It's like knowing how much warning do you give that it's going to be happening. Some people aren't as clued into time as others. And so they won't be counting down the sleeps. They won't know how many, the days, especially with adults with learning disabilities or others with learning disabilities,
Mm.
or just children generally. So if you don't pinpoint the fact that it's there, they don't have that anticipation to start getting their arousal levels up, which can tip them into being dysregulated and not so happy or too giddy or whatever. Sometimes just for arriving, you've done the preparation in the background, but it just kind of arrives, and therefore there isn't that build up of having three lots of sleepless nights before something.
Mm.
And then they can just deal with it very nicely on the day itself.
We one time we had an anniversary, we had a bunch of people over, and I think it was 15 years or something. I've forgotten now how many years, but I really wanted fireworks and I wanted proper big fireworks. And we found a place that we could get it from. We got it all sorted. But before we let these fireworks off, I was conscious that while we're in the middle of nowhere, we weren't totally in the middle of nowhere, and there were houses nearby. And I knew that 2 doors away, there was a farmer with a dog. And I thought, well, fireworks, dogs, not so great. But I
Mm.
really, really want fireworks. So we had these fireworks, and I actually went to speak to the guy, the lovely, lovely farmer. I just want you to know for your dog. So you've got notice of a week. We're going to be doing fireworks on this date. And I was quite shocked by his response because he said, don't really care. I have a gun dog. I literally go shooting with my dog. It will not care. But I got so anxious about this dog being scared. And he said, we go shooting with the dog. He's a farmer. The dog won't care. But we build up these anxieties in our heart of what's going to be really terrible that for somebody else is saying, not a problem.
Oh, that is just amazing. I hadn't clicked when you were going there. I was totally with you. I was totally with the dog,
Yeah.
thinking, oh no, the poor dog. And then as soon as you said it's a gun dog, it's like, oh, crumbs. Yeah, that just totally changes everything. And yeah, that's great. Yeah, we shouldn't assume anything about anybody, should we?
No, no, not at all. And he was not upset. He says, great, let me know. I'll come and watch them from my garden, which was like, 20 yards away or something. But I was so anxious about them as a family with the noise and the dog and all that. But it's a gun dog. We shoot shotguns and it runs and gets, because we're farmers and that's what the dog is trained to do on the farm. But we get so anxious, don't we, about trying not to upset somebody.
Mm.
I almost didn't do the fireworks. And that would have been really sad because the people that came, it was really good. But I almost didn't do it just in case.
Mm, mm. And it is really hard to judge sometimes. And there are times, and that's when we need grace, when we just think, oh, actually they'll be fine with this, or I've done my bit, or sometimes we've done overkill and think, oh, well, maybe I don't need to do it that time, and then something else happens, and it's always like we will never ever get anything right. Parents will never get anything right with their children. Me as a therapist, I don't get things right all the time with those who come into the clinic, especially as I'm getting to know them and they come into the centre for treatment. And there was one child just last week who I was treating, more of an ADHD type presentation. And he was on, I have what's called a bolster swing, and it's something where you can hang on it like a sloth, like you just kind of hang on it. It's a big thing and you hanging down underneath it. And this little one, he was so active and engaging and doing all kinds of things. I thought I'd try and put him in the sloth position and just move things around a bit. But boy, did it really stimulated his vestibular system in a way that wasn't helpful. And it was just like, okay, right, we need to change this and we need to change it now. So we had to change the activities, and then when the mum left, 10 minutes later, he was fine. Once they'd left the session, she said he was fine. But I just thought, oh, I didn't see that one coming. That he was actually really, yeah, he really reacted quite negatively in his system to an experience that he hadn't had before. Whereas other kids just absolutely love that, and they can't get enough of one of the ways that I work with them.
We've
So.
said this before, but we can spot a broken leg because it's in a cast. We can see a wheelchair, or we can see a stick, or we can see the cast itself. Okay, that person's got a broken leg. But you can't necessarily see as easily a broken vestibular system because there's no big red flag saying broken vestibular system. It doesn't work like that. Or this person can't smell, or this person can't sense in their fingers because they've burned them all, but they look fine. We don't see it in the same way, do we?
No, no, no. It is. It's really hard. And also that's where so many of these sensory issues get missed. So I'm so thankful a year on, Neil, and I'm still able to talk about sensory processing because it is massive. The impact that it has when you recognize, when you first click into the fact that you have a sensory processing issues, there are light bulbs that go off all the time. That's one of the biggest things that people go on. It's just like, oh, now I understand the light really has been turned on
Mm,
in our situation because we now understand how much of this behavior that we were finding difficult or we couldn't understand, or were bemused by, confused by, has a root in sensory processing.
mm. Birthdays. Let's come back to that. So celebrations. We've talked about some of the, I suppose, the pitfalls or the worries, the concerns, the anxieties. And you're saying, look, this is a good day to celebrate. So it's a day when you sort of stop thinking about everybody else to celebrate the one person, which is a good thing. And we've
Mm.
mentioned this before that yes, think about other people with Christmas. We touched on that one. And yes, think about other people, but it's still Christmas for somebody and they want to celebrate their way. And it's working out how we can, I suppose, how we can lock in together without butting against each other, which is one of the complexities of family life. But
Mm.
what would be some of the three really good things to look forward to at a birthday for somebody who's got any particular sensory need? How can we, help them really, really enjoy their special day when perhaps noises and banging noises that's terrifying, or suddenly bright lights? How can we best help somebody to have the most special day?
Mm. I think it's feeding into the senses that they really love and in a way that they love to receive it. So whether it's be like family hug time, it's like, group hug, where like, or group pile on. If you've got a boy, if there's young lads and you've got other siblings, it's like, right, pile on. That's what we do. Big birthday squish, you're the birthday cake. We're all going to roll over you, and this, that, and the other. So for some people who love the deep touch pressure, who love the physicality of things, it's really organizing, because sensory integration is another word for fun. So it's everything that when your senses are processing well and you're getting things at the right kind of level, we often talk about the right duration. So if they want to be rough and tumbling for 3 hours, as long as you have enough family members or you can bring other people in to do it for 3 hours.
Tag
It's just
team.
like, right. Yeah, it's just calling the neighbors, calling everybody. It's just like, right, we just need to fill them in because they will love this for this amount of time. So we look at the duration, how long they want it to go on for, the intensity. Some people, if certainly little kiddies, love to be swung upside down. You hold them by their ankles and you swing them upside down. And it's like, so it's how often, maybe lots of times during the day, they want to do their special swing. So you've got the intensity, the frequency, the duration, that's the intensity of it all. How long you do it, when in the day do they want to do it? Do they want a full-on morning, or and then just a quieter evening where they just want to settle in, or they just want the fire on, or they just want to snuggle up, or they want to watch TV or have some screen time, or just listen to something? Feed into what they absolutely love, but analyze it, which is part and parcel of the sensory super system, is how we analyze what they really love. So we look at what they love as well as what they need to avoid, and ways that we can treat their system so that the things that are really off-putting to them don't get in the way of life. But this is the day to feed into what they absolutely love. The sights and the sounds and the smells and the movements, and the intensity and how long they like to do it for, and when they like to do it in the day. That would be so special.
We had cake on
I
Sunday, which
thought about, do I get some donuts for Andy being like, oh, how on earth do I get any anywhere? I'm so glad you had some cake.
I wanted to send a slice to each of our trustees, and I thought, how do we do that so they get a slice of cake, not a splat, which would, because we actually went to the trouble of a local supermarket. We're going to buy a cake with it, like either I love baking; it's one of my favorite things to do. I know there's no time for before last weekend, so what I thought, well, we'll buy a cake and we'll ice the cake, and we can write on it. Nathan's an artist; he can draw it, get some black
Mm.
ice, and we can make the logo. So we stood in a supermarket and we find in their baking section there's a computer where you can order a cake with a picture on top. So there's a picture on our socials of our cake with our Pure 24/7 logo on top of it. And more than that, which was very cool because it smells good. It feels, I like the stickiness of the icing, it was good. But more than that, we actually had it was like an indoor safe Roman candle, which we lit, and it went about 2 feet with these sparks flying out. It did say, light the touch paper and withdraw yourself a meter. It's safe for internal use. I would agree. It was
Right.
fab because there was noise and there was light and there was smoke and there was cake and it was good.
And it was good. That's such a good phrase, isn't it?
It was very good. In fact, there's a little bit of cake just to my right, which I might try and Sneaky piece. Yes. So we had cake, but it was a way of celebrating this that was special to us because we like cake. I would have preferred to make it, but you know what? We can't always do what we want to do, even if it's what's really good. So last year on our launch, I made a cake. This year, I don't have time. How do we work with the fact I have not got time to make a cake, which I love to do, and
Yep.
ice a cake, which I'd be happy to do? Well, let's just buy a cake that comes with a picture on top because you know what? We can still have the cake. It's not necessarily quite what I would have preferred, but it was still good.
Lovely. How precious.
It was. And I think that's a good conclusion for celebrating birthdays is how can the how can the person whose birthday it is be most celebrated in ways that they want to be celebrated. So
Yeah.
for the five of us as the Berry Bunch, we wanted cake with a Roman candle, which is what I bought, which was great for an internal one. And we had a sparkling number 1 as well, which was, quite cool. But it did all sorts of things because you've got auditory processing going on because we can hear the Roman candle or the sparkly thing. We can smell the cake. Very good. We can taste the cake and we can touch the cake. Everything is going on there.
It's just so lovely. And that doesn't need to cost very much. And then when
No.
people think, oh, you need to, I can't afford, I can't, this, that, and the other, it's just like, actually, no, the things that really matter, they don't need to cost. And sometimes it's better that there is no cost or very, very little cost because it's just different. And it doesn't need to be the money that makes it special.
No, it doesn't. And the sparkly candle with the number 1 was a quid, £1, 100 pence, not a lot. And it was great fun for 20 seconds.
Yes. And that you've got that memory, and that's it for our first, you'll always have that memory. And the memories are attached to emotions. I've been learning so much more about that this week of just how important those memories are for helping us feel good. And yeah, we need to get rid of those negative emotions that hold those negative memories, but build those positive memories with lovely, lovely emotions. And all of the senses feed into the emotional limbic system of the brain. So it's beautiful.
And I can still smell the Roman candle,
There you go.
which I associate with a nice cake.
Mm.
Smell is good. Anna, thank you. This has been fun. Yeah, birthdays is good. It is really good to think about other people and to think, well, how can we make sure they're not going to be overwhelmed or underwhelmed in terms of their sensory health? But if it's a birthday, the person whose birthday it is worth celebrating almost not at any cost, but at the cost of others being really happy about what's going on. Actually, it's once a year, it's one day, it's 1 hour of a day, perhaps. It's good to celebrate.
It is. It is good to celebrate. And as we've always, that one day just for them. And you're allowed to be as selfish in that way, just a really lovely celebration of just honoring who they are. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's wonderful. And thank you for being with us for the last year. I love how we can talk about sensory health. I'm learning. You see, auditory processing, I'm using that phrase. It's sort of some of it sinking in after a year. But yeah, we've been doing this for a year and it's great because I love how we can talk about sensory health, which is affecting every single one of us to a greater or lesser degree. Some of us perhaps not even conscious of it. But when I pick up something like a glass of water, I now think, oh, tactile. I'm touching. I'm thinking it's got little ridges on the glass. And I'm thinking about all these sensory things I would never before have ever considered.
And it's how hopefully it helps people enjoy life and enjoy the simple things in life too. And yes, thank you ever so much.
Because these ridges on this glass, they're slightly textured, which if you've got issues of texture, it's lack of sensitivity, you can feel it sliding because you've got glass and rough and glass and rough. So even the glass, I'm thinking, oh, that's a good sensory thing, that.
Yeah, you'll not drop the glass because you do not want water on your computer, do you?
No.
So actually having that extra tactile feedback tells where it is and how much of your proprioceptors to hold it so you don't squash it or drop it. So,
But that's how I think now.
Hey.
Which is a good thing. So thank you for being with us for the first year and on to year 2. If you want to watch any of these videos, by the way, every single video we've ever done with Anne Laure Jackson and any of our guests is on our YouTube channel. If you go to there, you'll see a whole section with Dr. Richard Scott or Anne Laure Jackson, specialist sensory occupational therapist. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Here at Pure 24/7 Radio, we have had the privilege of speaking to some amazing people with amazing stories.
So I was already doing the work of an evangelist, and then I discovered that there was a term for it. And then I realized, well, I really wanted to learn more about the Bible and Christianity. So I went to theological college.
Most people think that my life as a marine biologist was spent riding on the back of a dolphin into the sunset.
That's my view.
Yeah, I did that never.
Been on the road 35 years, man and boy, doing magic and comedy to communicate the gospel. When I started off in 88, I was doing escapology. I kind of took that on from a friend of mine called Pete Gilbert, who was a real pioneer in creative communication.
If you have missed any of these interviews or would like to hear them again, you can. Simply head over to our catch-up section at www.pure247radio.org. That's www.pure247radio.org.